Welcome to Planning Phase Syndicate. Thank you all so much for joining us tonight. We have an amazing episode planned for you tonight. And in a second, I'm going to have JJ pronounce the title of the show because I'm not going to even try to speak another language tonight. But tonight, we're going to be talking about a plethora of topics. I have some stuff set up. We're going to talk about Trilogy Tournament, the competitors for against our team this week. We're going to be talking about some of the new previews that have came out recently, but there wasn't very many of them. And then we're going to also kind of cover like a high-level faction discussion, right? And if you want to get into X-Wing and you're a new player, what type of faction do you want to get into and why? And so we're going to list some of the benefits for each of the different factions and kind of talk a little bit about that. If we could get done in under 2 hours tonight, we are going to have a little powwow convo afterwards where we talk about Boba Fett. So stay tuned for that as well. Without further ado, let me bring in my co-host for the night, Mr. JJ. Loves his sandcrawlers and his Jawas. How are you tonight, sir?
Doing all right. And, for the record, the episode's name is Shumeneez toyneepa, which means show me the credits.
There you go. Also with me tonight is Charles Boba Fett, the first. Dillman, how are you tonight, sir?
Sir, my full name is Robert Anthony Fettuccini, but I'll take it. Thank you.
All right, Robert Fettuccini. All right, Fettuccini man, how are you?
Doing all right, man. Doing all right. It's been an interesting weekend. I've played some Flesh and Blood, slept quite a bit. Other than that, kind of just doing my thing, man. It's been a good week so far.
Well, if you tuned in, you saw me lose my Jank Tank match. So I'm out.
Yeah. Same here. Yep. I know. I know the feeling.
Was it single elim?
Yeah, it's all single elimination.
Oh.
Yeah, they have like over 500 players and they can only load like 250 odd people in TTT. So they gave like half of the participants a bye and then everybody else like a matchup. So yeah.
It's okay. I'm okay with that. I actually was surprisingly not too far behind in my match until about 3/4 of the way through when it just really all went to hell. Like even worse than it was before. Losing my resistance bomber, which there you go, Charles will remember how many times did I lose that stupid bomber, when we played for the other events and it just
we constructed a Death Star for you with it in there.
Yep. Doesn't matter what I do. I always lose the stupid bomber. Every time. Doesn't matter. And this one wasn't even that important. Like, he had R2-D2 to kill all my bombs, so it didn't matter.
Yeah, that was a surprise. I actually didn't know that the bombs counted as devices as well. So when he took it out, I was like, what? I was totally surprised, but that was actually a great play. That was great.
Yeah, I was like, oh, all right. I was like, is that why you asked me if I wanted to launch a bomb? He didn't say anything, but that's exactly why.
Yeah.
But I had about 0 practice with that list, and in fairness to him, he had the same thing, 0 practice with his list. So, with that being said, go ahead.
My game with Marcel was a lot of fun. Him having 2 of the attack shuttles there with Janors and then Corran Horn. That was a tough list to go through. It was a lot of fun. He came close. It was very close to the end there, those final shots at the end of the game, where he he just avoided that direct hit, which would have killed his Corran Horn. But yeah, it was a lot of fun.
Yep. Tonight's episode is sponsored by Bullet Bourbon. If you've never had it, you should go out and try it. Sponsorship. Want to be sponsorship. Anyway, so I didn't get to play much X-Wing this week. We were in quarantine for the most part all week. We all went and tested Saturday, sat in an 1.5-hour line, and we all tested negative. So there you go. I could go back to my in-person play this week. Thank God. I actually got to go rebuild my list for LVO so that I can start playing. Because I have a couple of lists I've been testing for LVO. Because I haven't decided. I had decided I was going to run a Droid Swarm. And then I've been cautioned against my first 6-round tournament running 8 ships all day. Because I guess we'll be up at like 7:30 in the morning, and we'll be playing till 7:30 at night.
Wait, so hold on. Let me ask a question. This is your first like big tournament?
Yep. Yeah, COVID
So
hit
yeah,
right before.
then I will second that. That is not that's an endurance sport that you're wanting to do, dude. That's like running a marathon. It's going to be all I'm going to be able to do to manage 2 ships for 6 rounds.
Yeah. I really want to run them, especially because nobody runs Watt, right? And I've been having decent success with Watt. It's just like, it would just be kind of cool to hit top cut and somebody goes, oh yeah, look, somebody got Watt top cut. Be like, yep, there you go. Nobody ever runs Watt. But that's kind of what John was cautioning me against too. He was like, you know how many you're going to be setting 8 dials for at least 3 rounds every game. And the only break you're gonna have to pick everything up and put everything away. I do have a tournament tray that I bought, so I will be able to carry my list around with me, but still.
So, but here's the thing. So, I've had multiple iterations of tournament trays. And the one constant fact is that none of them have worked. Like,
Okay.
you get to the table and you're like, okay, I have this tiny little setup. And then you realize that it's going to be asses and elbows, dude. Like, trying to slide, depending on how it's set up. I've been to regionals where tables were like single aisle. So there was one way in and one way out. And that means you had to like do the awkward movie theater, like, do I give you the butt or do I give you the front, with every person that you pass to get to your table, and then trying to get out after your game is 100 times worse. And I've been to ones where you've days for room because only like 15 or 20 people showed up and you have all the room for days. So until you see what the setup is, you're not going to know. But I will tell you that realistically speaking, I've flown 4 ship lists at regionals, which was like a couple, like 70 to 100 people. And even with a tray that I could just set my ships on and walk away with them, it's still a pain of gathering your tokens, gathering your cards, gathering everything together, walking to where the lists are and carrying it with you. If someone bumps into you, like hypothetically, you're flying a Falcon, someone knocks into you, it falls off the peg and shatters when it hits the ground. Now what do? Because AMG's rules are that a ship has to be on the peg at all times. Like, it's a pain. I'd rather have something contained within a box rather than something that's sitting on top of it, because you're just asking for someone to accidentally knock into you.
Well, that sucks. That was a $70 box.
Hey, Nabi, how's it going? Look, it might work. I'm not saying. I've seen people that have had like these little wooden trays where they have their pilot card and their upgrades laid out and their slots for their tokens, and that system worked perfectly for them. It would have driven me insane, but it worked perfectly for them. So it might work for you. I'm not saying it won't, but I'm just saying, like, be prepared that the space is for 400 people and 600 people signed up. And so the 1.5 feet between each pad that you would normally have becomes 6 inches, so that they can make room for 2 more pads at the end of the table and try and extend the seating opportunities. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Just be prepared to be crammed. Like, it's not going to be comfortable, at least not that I've been a part of.
Which is what you're telling me. No jeans,
you're good.
shorts only.
Oh yeah.
Nope. Or you could wear jean shorts if you want to.
No, no, not me, buddy.
You could totes John Cena it.
And,
you know
just
who
like
I was thinking of though? Have you ever seen Arrested Development?
yeah.
That's who I was thinking of.
I was gonna say, just like the military, always bring a change of socks. I'm just saying.
Well, I was planning on bringing sandals. Actually, if I wear shorts, I typically wear sandals. I do not wear shoes.
And bring extra deodorant / cologne. And this goes out to everybody that's playing.
Yes.
Please.
Hygiene is important, guys.
Please bring things that make you smell good. Yes, Nabi. Yes, Nabi. I said the exact same thing. They both got fresh haircuts. Look at them. Look at them looking all bomb on their side. I just look like a hobo Viking.
So full disclosure, I do cut my own hair. I've been taught from my brother since I was really, really young. It looks like a fresh cut because I actually have gel. I actually came from a casino birthday party. For some reason, apparently it's like training for LVO without me being able to actually go to LVO. But it was a lot of fun, and I came running from that to come to the cast tonight. So yeah.
Why did Streamlabs open betting?
I don't know.
What are we betting on? Are we betting
I
on
don't
whether
know.
JJ actually cut his own hair or not?
I don't know. to
Bet
be
one
honest
if you
with
think he does. Bet two if you think he doesn't.
I don't know if we left the betting open from the last one and we just never closed it. I have a feeling that was the case. Anyway, that's an after show discussion. Anyway, so I'm excited. Psych J, I'm not going to pay your bet out. I'm literally just going to cancel your bet. No. Actually, you betting on one, that was me. So if it is still open from Friday, you just lost all your credits. Anyway, so why don't we go to upgrades? I think that sounds good, right? You know, we haven't done the few new upgrades for the week.
Good night, Nora.
Good night.
Mrs. Wexley. Mrs. Wexley.
Yeah, I tried to convince her to play Nora in the in X-Wing. She won't play with me.
We gotta make like a dedicated kids X-Wing tournament where it's like kids ages like 8 through 12, right?
So
and
I will
play
tell
off each
you,
other.
we tried that once. This is pre-Chris 1.0 in Michigan. We tried to do a kids only tournament. You know what happened? A bunch of adults with children showed up and then played their children's list for them. It was terrible.
I heard about that.
Yeah, it was awful. Because the kids, they squirrel. You know what I mean? Or they see another kid who doesn't have to play and they want to go do whatever he's doing because this is boring. And so it left all the parents with these children's lists fighting for prizes that was supposed to be for a children's tournament. It was awful.
Anyway, let's move on from there. So we got some new upgrades tonight. Charles mentioned a couple weeks ago that he said there was going to be some sort of configuration for the Gauntlet Fighter. And as you can see, there is. Now, I will tell you, this image bothers me.
Why?
It looks like somebody took a dog's nose and shaved it really skinny, and its ears are sticking straight up. And that's the PG version of that.
So the reason that I will say it doesn't bother me is because, and I can grab it if you would like, but I have the Lego Gauntlet Fighter that was released with Mandalorian sets that came with like Bo-Katan and stuff like that. And
I know
that's pretty accurate to what the Lego kit looks like. Like it's pretty
but
dead
have
on.
you seen it in Clone Wars?
I haven't watched Clone Wars. I built one out of Legos.
Because it doesn't sit in that position all the time. We'll just put it that way.
Sorry, Nobby. In the United States, we squirrel. You guys kangaroo. Sorry.
It looks like it's taking off in that picture, right? Like it's lifting up to leave like a VTOL, you know?
Or landing.
True, yeah.
All right. So this card says, while you defend, roll one fewer defense dice. After you fully execute a non-stationary maneuver, you may flip the card. Don't know why you would ever keep it on that side, but I bet we'll find out in just a minute. Then we have the wings.
You can't keep it on that side. Or is it? Oh, no, it was a may. You may flip this card, right?
I think it's a must, isn't it?
Nope, on the other side.
You may.
Okay. Yeah,
you may flip this card. So you could purposely lower your agility dice, but I don't know what the benefit to that would be.
Yeah, exactly. And I don't know why you... The only time you would ever be on that card is after you did this. After you execute a zero-stop maneuver, you can rotate your ship 90 or 180 degrees, and if you do, you must flip this card. So the reason you lose the agility is because you're creating a rotation maneuver for it. And I believe the maneuver is a red. Yep, see you're red, you have a
Yeah.
red stop here.
Unless you have inertial dampeners.
Yeah, but even then, that's still a stressful maneuver.
Right. It's a white stressful
Yeah,
maneuver at that point, right?
Yeah. And
Yeah,
it's
so-
also a shield.
But this also is a gauntlet fighter, so you could, it doesn't specify scum or not, so you could pair this with Leia to
Yeah,
lower the
that's true.
difficulty of a maneuver, right?
Yeah,
So it'd be
exactly.
a white zero stop. So you didn't
Yeah.
have the stress from it. So you could just white zero stop, rotate 180 degrees and take a target lock.
Yeah, because you could do that with the U wings that currently have a very similar ability with their pivot wings.
Yep.
So yeah, you can absolutely layer this and to make it into a white turnaround. So yeah.
Yeah, which
And-
then that's fine. Take one of my agility away. Let me still think about Maul with. Well, I guess Maul won't get Leia. So I guess you couldn't do it with Maul. But
Just
No.
just have the turret turn the gauntlet into a turret ship.
yeah,
Just continuously do a zero stop and just rotate as you need to pick up your target.
because
Yeah.
you could do because the first card, and I never thought about that before, Charles. But the first card just says after you fully execute a non-stationary maneuver. So essentially, to flip the card, you'd have to do some sort of a maneuver that's not stationary to get it.
As long as you could find a way to remove the stress, like to pass the stress from one ship to the next, like
Cassian
static-
Andor pilot.
There you go. Is he well, yeah. So yeah, if you could pass the stress from one ship to another so it just stayed stressed, you could have a large base turret.
Mm-mm. You can't, because this says once you execute it, if you rotate, you must flip the card.
No.
Oh yeah. Okay. Yeah.
Oh
But
yeah,
only-
yeah.
you
So you
only
could only
rotate. Yeah,
rotate
you're right.
once,
You're right.
but you could hold that
That's right.
bearing as long as somebody was in your firing
Yeah.
arc.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, so you can't. It's not going to be a turret. That would be broken if that was the case.
Right. Okay.
Because yeah, you could just think about it. I'm going to put a large base, dual shot or not dual shot, but dual arc ship, in the middle of the board and just rotate in a circle. That would be like the worst droid you could ever have. And not only do you not get to go 90, you get to do the 180. Can you imagine if the droids could do 180? That would be horrible.
Yeah.
That would be the worst. They're the best as it is. So, anybody have any other thoughts on this before we move on? I like it. I'm a little saddened that it doesn't reduce the
Difficulty of
it. Yeah.
I wish you got something for your wings being down like the X-wings do, if I'm being honest. Like a boost action, or like maybe a slam action or something on the card that you could do. Maybe not a slam because it's a large base ship, and large base ships with slam are stupid. But
Well, I think it just opens up. I think that they specifically designed this, and we'll see this with the next pilot, because it does open up design space for other pilots in the future for this chassis across different factions to have different abilities based on like what side the pivot wings are. So I think it's just a design choice for that, just so that it opens that up for future pilots if they decide to revisit this chassis.
sure, and there could be even upgrades coming. You know what I mean? There might be something that you can pair with the swivel wing that's part of the that Mandalorian kit, the Warriors of Mandalore or whatever it is, the card box. Maybe they haven't spoiled everything that's in that box, and maybe there's something that we'll be able to pair with the swivel wing that we've not seen yet.
Well, we know they definitely have not spoiled everything. So
yeah,
they don't have 50 cards on there. They haven't given us 50 cards worth.
Fair.
All right. Now, the next pilot that they gave us was an Empire pilot. Who wants to take this one?
I'll take it here. So this one is Captain Hark. He's an Initiative 3 pilot for the Empire. His ability reads: after you reveal a zero maneuver, if you are equipped with the swivel wings down, you must execute a one bank side slip maneuver of the same difficulty instead. After you execute that maneuver, you must flip your swivel wings down. So this actually pairs very, very well with the pivot wings, allowing it to do that side slip maneuver just like an HMP, and getting basically allowing you to just move the entire large space sideways on a diagonal, and allowing you to go into like a better position to keep pursuit on a ship. I think this is going to be a really, really strong. This is a really strong ability for this particular chassis, especially since it doesn't have a natural ability to do like K turns or anything like that. And I think that this will be a really good asset for the Empire.
So now I have a question. We're gonna go back up a minute. So the question I have, it says after you execute that stop maneuver, you may rotate, right? So now if we go back to his card, it does not say anything about a rotate, right? All it does is say you must execute a side slip maneuver of the same difficulty instead. Now, so here is the question I have, and this is where it's going to make a huge difference, right? I do my stop. Do I A, get to rotate and then do the side slip? Or do I do the side slip and then rotate? Or do I get to choose because it's a Q ability that I get to place?
Could you scroll back up?
So the
Hold on
way
just a
I
second. Oh,
Yeah,
go ahead, JJ.
I was going to say, the way I read this here is that you reveal the stop maneuver, right? You can now choose to rotate your ship 90 or 180 degrees, then do the pivot wing at that
That's
point,
not
because
how I
the
read it.
instead portion refers to the maneuver, which is the zero stop for it.
But it doesn't
Right,
say
but
reveal. It says like execute.
But here's the thing. That's the key. So on the swivel wing is after you execute your zero stop maneuver,
Oh,
you
good,
may
good point.
rotate. So when you reveal, your zero stop changes to the side slip,
So now you
which
can't
I
rotate.
believe then you have to execute the side slip. Now it doesn't say fully execute, it just says execute. So even if you bump, you can still choose the rotation after executing the side slip. But
Okay.
you have to, I think the order of turn would be side slip first, then rotation if chosen. That would be my interpretation of it. Now,
Actually,
if there's a judge available, that you can call me out on that if I'm wrong, but that's what makes sense to me is it's reveal, change to side slip, execute, then rotate.
Actually, now just rereading it, I think that because you're doing the side slip maneuver and not fully executing the stop maneuver, then you're not able to rotate. Because it's a if then clause.
All right,
All
so
right.
hold on. So I dial in a zero. I reveal the zero. So now my zero stop is replaced with the side slip maneuver.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
So then what does the swivel wing say? After you execute a zero stop maneuver?
Stop maneuver, yeah.
So because you're not technically doing the zero stop maneuver, it's a side
can't
slip.
rotate.
You can't rotate using it.
Yeah.
Okay, so this gives you a 45-degree rotation instead of a 90-degree rotation.
Yeah, exactly.
Which, if that's the case and that's how they're going to play it, that's better, right? Because can you imagine that ship's maneuverability? Oh, I'm going to side slip, and then I'm going to fucking rotate.
I absolutely can. It's called a Star Viper.
Yeah,
this is exactly what they do. I'm gonna
want that?
Sensors my barrel roll, and then I'm gonna boost.
Do you want that?
A large base Star Viper?
On a large
Absolutely,
base
I do.
In Empire. Okay, all right.
Absolutely, that would be so broken. Can you put advanced sensors on a large base ship?
If it has a sensor slot, yes.
Yeah. It's stupid expensive, I think, but yeah.
God, does this have a... Oh, God. Gauntlet fighters with advanced sensors and then the sides... Oh.
Yeah, but it has no
maneuverability.
reposition. It has no barrel roll or boost or anything. So I mean,
Engine upgrade. Or no,
yeah,
what is it?
which requires a boost.
Expert handling.
It doesn't have a barrel.
Oh, you have to have the red, and those make
You
it
have to have a
white,
red.
right?
Yeah,
Okay.
Yeah.
Are there
So
any
I don't know.
Are there any upgrades you can equip that give you a red, like even if it's just a linked barrel roll?
Nope. Not for large base. For small base, you have afterburners, but that's only small base only. It doesn't apply for large base or medium.
Okay.
So
Thank goodness for small favors, I suppose.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't think you want this, Charles, to do a stop, side slip, and rotate, or rotate and side slip. That's like a Kylo Ren in
Look,
a large base in Empire.
but
You don't.
here's the difference though, right? Kylo Ren and Guri comparatively to this, and this is a tangent, and then I'll shut up. I promise. So Kylo Ren has 3 agility and can do this nonsense. Guri has 3 agility and can do this nonsense. This big old honking ship has 1. So go ahead.
Two.
No, because your wings are up.
Oh,
You have 1.
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
go ahead, side slip 45 degrees. You're still going to be in my arc because a 45-degree side slip is not getting a large base ship out of arc. If it does, then you did a very poor job of positioning your small base ships. So go ahead, get your little reposition, and then I will light your 1 agility butt on fire.
unless we put stealth device in and I get my 2 back.
Or you can take your red reinforce.
Yeah. I don't know. So I think that's an interesting telltale, right? I need to know that. That's a question I want answered because
Somebody write that down and submit it to Fly Better.
because if that is true, where I could side slip and rotate, that ship better be worth as much as ball. Like I'm telling you, I get your point, Charles. I don't disagree with you that yes, a 1 agility large base ship will do that twice before it gets murdered if everybody goes in on it. But I don't know. That seems like a pretty amazing ability if that's true. Otherwise, if it's just a side slip and you don't get to rotate, I don't think it's as powerful. I do think it's kind of cool, you know. And if you notice here where they said execute the maneuver at the same difficulty. So if you are able to somehow reduce it to a white, then you can still take your action. So I think this is probably my second favorite one out of all of them.
So if I could take just a second, this is nothing to do with X-Wing in any way, shape, or form. Put it in the feedback file. Yeah, Javier. Bob Saget was just found dead in a hotel room here in Orlando.
Yes. Yeah, a little while ago.
I did not notice that until just now. So 2 of my childhood sitcom icons in a week. Holy crap.
Can I tell you a weird irony?
Sure.
So we were not allowed to watch Full House growing up as
Why?
kids. Don't
Multiple male role models?
I don't know. I don't
Okay.
want to get into that on the podcast. We don't need to get into my background per se too much.
No, you're good. You're good.
It might cause issues. But the funny thing is everybody always goes, "Oh, you like Bob Saget?" And I was like, "Oh yeah." But I don't like Bob Saget because of Full House. I like Bob Saget because of his stand-up comedian stuff.
He's a very blue, like very adult themed comedian. I didn't realize that until much later in life that he was not the person they portrayed him to be on Full House.
No. And that's so like in my teen years, oh, Empty House. Oh, come on.
Oh,
too soon.
what?
Too soon. But you know, it was just weird because people would always say, because my last name's Tanner, right? And Full House's last name is Tanner.
Yeah.
So I always got the jokes all the time.
Just made that connection. Okay, then.
Nobody, yeah, like people I used to get made fun of all the time. Ask which one of the Olsen twins was I gonna date when I grew up, and I was like, I don't even know who these people are. Like I don't watch this show.
How rude. Oh man.
I will say it's very sad. I like Bob Saget. I thought he was a good guy. So anyway, let's stop trying to make me depressed. Yeah.
Sorry, it wasn't
Back
an
on topic.
intention. I didn't know whether you guys knew or not. I just saw
Yeah.
it pop up. So
Yes, my wife came downstairs to tell me about it. And when you hear about him dying in a hotel room, I only think of two things. Ever.
I think of what's his name, the lead singer of Linkin Park, and Chris Cornell.
Well, yes, I also think of what's the guy that was in Kill
In Excess?
Bill that
Oh,
Yeah,
yeah.
was
David
ended
Carradine.
up in his closet with the thing around his neck.
I
Yeah.
I
Yeah,
actually met
Otto.
him in real life here in Orlando too. He was a pretty decent guy.
Adult-oriented asphyxiation.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. Like those are the two things I think about. So and I guess I don't follow Bob Saget anymore, so I don't know anything about him. But
I know he was supposed to be performing, I think, at the Hard Rock here as a Kung Fu exit. Javier, what is wrong with you?
all right, let's move on.
And on to the next topic.
So yeah, so there's the dial. The only thing I was gonna say is that was the other reason I think they have those wording in there, right? Is because look, if I did a one banks, those are blue, and the side slip ones wouldn't be technically blue, but because you're doing it that way, in you're going in the opposite direction, it's got to be red. So
Does it specify that the side slip becomes white?
it specifies it's the
It's the
same
same
as a
maneuver.
zero stop.
Ah, gotcha. Okay.
Yep. So I like that specification personally quite a bit. So because it would be awful to be able to do a blue slide slip like that on one of those things. That's that would make that really powerful as well. So all right. So what do we want to do? Want to go into the Trilogy Tournament or do you want to do factions?
Yeah. Let's do Trilogy Tournament
first.
Yeah.
All right. I got to reset.
So Nambi, thank you so much for getting all this organized. By the way, I really appreciate it. So we got our pairings this week for the next three weeks of 20 that we have for the Trilogy Tournament, and we have our pod here. We're assigned Pod E here for Panic Pilot Syndrome. That's the name of our team. So we're going to be playing against Team Vaughan Poetry. That's our first matchup here for this tournament here. So let's go over some of the lists that we have here, starting with my list here. So my list is a first order list. It has Blackout with Trick Shot and Sensitive Controls, Kylo Ren in the Whisper with Predator, Biohex, Crypt Codes, and the Enhanced Jamming Suite. And then lastly, Lieutenant Tabson in the Upsilon with Biohex, Crypt Codes, and Sensor Buoy Suite. Now, I have this particular... I have this setup here for first order. I wanted to give this one a try. I've been playing around with this particular archetype for a while because I do like having the ability to jam, and this is definitely a really strong list for that. So Blackout with sensitive controls and Trick Shot, that's easy. You can easily just fly him right behind a big obstacle, take a shot, and then sensitive controls out of the way the next turn, and rinse and repeat as need to. It makes him very offensive and defensive. If he gets shot back, he gets that extra die for the obstruction, and he can be very evasive that way. Tavson with the Sensor Buoy Suite, I actually like. It's something that I've only been trying out recently. It allows me to continuously get that target lock off onto Tavson if they're flying nearby that buoy. And while I could use it for offense, if I do need a mod, assuming that I do get a shot with Tavson, I use it a lot more with Biohex Crypt Codes to enable the jam, because Biohex Crypt Codes allows me to spend a target lock that I have on an opponent to jam them regardless of range. And I could also do that with Kylo Ren as well. I can get a target lock early or while I'm disengaging, and on a critical turn I can jam somebody with range, right? And those turns that I pull in, I'm not quite in bullseye or quite in range one, and allows the Kylo Ren to jam somebody with a focus jam or a boost jam or what have you, and it makes it very effective to strip mods from my opponent. This is something that I feel that I can do pretty well in. The next list that I have here is for John. John here has a Rebels list. Get his. I'm sorry, a Separatist list. Sorry. So he is flying a Zam Wessel in the fire spray.
I'm going to stop you
Yeah.
for a quick second. So
Sure.
I need you to go back just for a couple parsecs and explain the list building strategies for Trilogy Tournament. Because
Sure.
when you see this specific list, you kind of wonder, why in God's green earth did John build this way? Right? So
Yeah. So we did have a few restrictions for building lists. As part of a team of 3, we each had a specific time period of factions that we had to choose. So one player had to either pick Republic or Separatist. The next player had to pick either Rebel, Imperial, or Scum, and the last player would pick either First Order or Republic. On top of that, we also had the limitation of having unique upgrades across the board. So if you had Lone Wolf on one list, it cannot be found in a different list on your team. So you had to make sure that when you're picking either crew or particular unique upgrades, that you didn't overlap with any of your other teammates' lists when you're doing that particular type of a build. So we did have to take care of making sure that that we built a pretty solid list without any overlap there. Like we couldn't have 2 instances of Han Solo in either Resistance or Rebels or Scum, for instance. Like that's a classic example, and that's why we were limited with what we could make like that. And on top of that, we also had the restriction of making sure that we had different archetypes as well. Like we all couldn't come with like swarm list across the board. We all had to have different type of list loadouts where one could do like an A style type list, another could do a swarm, and then another could do like a 4 ship support type list like that.
exactly. So that clarifies it a little bit, and I think the second point I want to say is look what's on John's list. John,
Independent calculation.
thank you for taking a page out of my book. That's all I gotta say.
To be fair,
Sometimes I could be a shitty player, but I have good ideas.
So for John's list, let me go over it first before I give my feedback on it. So he's flying Zam Wessel in the fire spray, equipped with a jammy beam just for flavor, Count Dooku crew, and thermal detonators, as well as a shield upgrade, making that a very tanky Zam Wessel. He is followed by 2 separatist interceptors, which are the droid tri-fighters, and they're both equipped with independent calculations. And then lastly, to round it out, is a Vulture class droid fighter, separatist drone initiative 3, also with independent calculates and the struts. Now, I absolutely agree with his decision to put independent calculates on these tri-fighters because they definitely want those mods, both on offense and defense, because they're definitely a lot more aggressive than a regular Vulture can, particularly because they don't have the ability to just stay on the rocks. They do have to fly around like an interceptor, I would say. And having the double calculate can sometimes be better than a single focus. So that I definitely agree.
They can't take focuses anyway.
Right, I know, but I'm just saying, like, in terms of like the versatility of a double calculate versus like having a focus, like I think that's better than having a standard focus, because you do have times where you roll like checks mix, right? You have like 1 focus, 1 eyeball, 1 blank. So you spend 1 calculate and still keep 1 for defense on a defensive shot. Or you can mod 2 different defensive roles, since these are initiative 3s. So I think that independent calculate is worth his gold, or his weight in gold, for what it provides this particular chassis. Most of the time, this chassis naturally just has the ability to reposition and take either an evade token or a single calculate token, which can be okay. But in positions or in engagements where you're ready where you need to be, that independent calculation is really good. And this chassis has really good hard blues that allows it to shed that stress afterwards and still stay in the fight and go where it needs to go.
Now, I want you to imagine something. Imagine Savage Opress in place of Count Dooku for 3 points cheaper. or 3 to 4 points cheaper. Tasty.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I can't wait to see what Savage does for like these type of lists. Oh my god, it's gonna be so good.
Ugh, man. Oof. All right.
Yeah.
Next.
So the last one we have here is Charles' list. Charles, you want to do yours?
Yeah, I can do mine, and then I will allow you to pick it apart if you would like. So I am running the Master Mandalorian, Mr. Boba Fett himself. Fearless, no cannon or missile upgrade. I do have the Slave 1 title that gives me the gunner slot. And that is so I can have Skilled Bombardier just to give him a little bit more versatility with the seismic charges. I did throw false transponder codes on there, and then as homage to the originator, we will throw a stealth device onto this fire spray. Running along with that is Eamon Azamine with Cad Bane, so I have a little extra mobility with dropping bombs. Running proximity mines, proton bombs, and Drosta, so that I have the extra bomb slot, false transponder codes, and also a stealth device on it as well.
Yeah, really solid list. Double fire sprays are always good. Really tough to beat. My only critique is just, and probably because you didn't have the points for it, is just putting thermals instead of proton bombs onto Iman, because you could take advantage of that interaction with Cad Bane. You could drop one boost and then drop another one using like the 3 bank, but it costs 1 more point, and there's nowhere in your list where you could take that off.
Honestly. I mean, you could drop proxies.
Yeah, but I think with Iman's ability, you're more likely to land that proxy than anything. So I think that proxies are definitely the priority versus thermal detonators. But still, I mean, Cad Bane is just a solid upgrade for Iman, especially if he needs to get away in a hurry to just drop something, boost, and then you can just reveal 3 straight blue and get the hell out of dodge. So that's very solid. Yeah.
Nabi is asking if you have done our pairing already, since you are our team captain.
Yes, we have.
Not as of yet. So I mistakenly thought that I was going to be able to do that before the cast. Unfortunately, the time difference threw me off. So we're actually going to be doing it tomorrow night. So we'll see what our pairing is going to be.
So Charles, I actually the only thing, I was gonna say I like thermals better than protons, or I would have put thermals on Boba and swapped the seismics out on Eamon. I would have dropped one of the Andrasta codes if it were me. But
you talking about false transponder codes?
Yeah. Sorry, did I say Andrasta codes?
Yeah, and you said Andrasta codes. Yeah,
it took me a second for my brain to autocorrect what you actually meant.
Yeah, no. And I do think it's spicy, this Slave 1 that nobody uses, right? That's that scum or the separatist version you never see. And it's cheaper than Marauder. So, for what you're doing, I like it actually better. I think it's a spicy take on Boba, because a lot of times people want that re-roll out the back. But at the same token, you're going to use your Boba for aggressiveness, right? But if it were me, I probably would have dropped false transponder codes on Eamon. I would leave them on Boba because I still like it on Boba, because I don't want people target locking him.
Who is Madam Juke?
I have no idea, but I would not.
It's one of Nabi's hosts, I believe. Yeah.
Okay. Well,
yeah.
Let her know that I'm happy to have her approval.
So
if you switch seismics up here and then put protons there, I still like proton bombs a lot, like, especially on Boba. But if you did drop the up to the thermals, drop your false transponder codes. Somebody says you should be taking the switch, but you really don't want them to die.
No, I'd rather not be planning for my 10 health ship to die.
Then you have I would look at elusive, or maybe
no. The reason
I was gonna
elusive
say-
doesn't work with fire sprays because, and this is my opinion, it might work amazing and maybe I just don't see it, but fire sprays have a front back arc that there is no difference in your shot, front or back. So there is no benefit for me to do a red maneuver and cost myself an action.
I would say cutthroat, honestly. Yeah,
Cutthroat
just so you can
probably would be
regen
solid.
your bomb, not your mine, because it can be regenerated, but your bomb.
Yeah, the only problem is that means they have to kill Boba off. I don't like cutthroat. I guess. I guess I don't see.
Well,
In a pinch.
Fuck it. Maybe put ions. There you go. I guess maybe it's 2 unfortunately it's 2 points, you know, or maybe drop seismics and put thermals
Yeah, thermals, I would say,
on both.
because it works better with Cad Bane. But I mean,
Nabi, do you
it's
want
lots,
her to
so.
beat you?
Yeah.
Just saying, man. I don't know what you're into, so maybe you want her to. Fire sprays
Wait,
everywhere.
no.
Shut up, Nabi. I
All
mean,
right,
to be fair,
so-
you stole the idea for your A-wings anyway from a fire spray.
Exactly.
So it's okay.
Exactly. Yeah. So so let's take a look at our opponents list here for Vogon Poetry, Team Vogon's Poetry. So the first one we're going to look at here is for Guppy. He is the leader for their team.
Can I read it? I'm excited by this list.
Oh yeah, do it.
I actually want this to win. I'm sorry. Like I'm rooting for this list.
Didn't you play against this list before?
No, I've never seen 3 Skiskoan aces with Predator on them ever. So essentially it is 3 Skiskoan aces with Predator, so they're all in the Belba Labs. And then they have Darth Maul with Hate, Grievous, Proxy, and a hull upgrade. I love this list. Like, this is...
Yeah.
I guess I've never flown more than one of those Belba Labs before. Ever in my life. So, like this here, like, I don't even own 3 of them, you know? I don't know.
Yeah.
I like this a lot.
Yeah, Nabi, I agree. We should have done the list refinement prior to submission,
And
so
locking
that
in the list, yeah.
Yeah, but you know, we waited, so it's okay.
Yeah. So so Guppy's list, yeah, definitely really strong because you either, if you half-ass on Maul and start like taking out Belbalobs, he's just going to regenerate General Grievous, which basically acts like a whole upgrade. That's even better because you can cancel 1 hit or crit results that goes through into Maul. It's very tanky with both hull upgrade and General Grievous. That gives them basically 2 additional health that you have to go through in order for you to kill Darth Maul. And then these the Skull Aces, if you get I'm assuming that he's going to probably run this as a Snaggletooth formation, you know, so that we can trigger that Predator more often. They can definitely hit very hard with that passive mod, and you'll have a tough time trying to go through all this beef essentially. Definitely one of the lists that I'm concerned about to face off against. But yeah, we'll see how we do here. The next one that we have here is going to be for Michael Turner here. He has a scum list here. He has Guri in the Star Viper with Elusive, Pattern Analyzer, Afterburners, and Virago. Dalen Oberos with Prime Thrusters. Kane and Jarrus in the HWK with Engine Upgrade and Moldy Crow. This is definitely a pure efficiency list. These Star Vipers are equipped to just go wherever they want to outmaneuver opponents and just punish by outmaneuvering, and that's how they want to fly. This is a really, really strong list. I assume that Michael has a lot of experience flying this particular type of list because you have to be able to turn on the dime to make sure that you can outmaneuver your opponents and know where they're going to go here. This is a particularly strong list against our list because he does have that Initiative 5 Guri that matches up with our Initiative 5s. So for road rules, if he happens to move second, he will have that agency to arc dodge whatever he needs to. But if he ends up getting first player for those rounds, it might not work out too well. So we'll see. We'll see how that works.
Yep. I don't know. I'll be honest. This is where Charles has to give his take. I don't see the benefit in this. I see an overly expensive Guri that is hoping to be able to outmaneuver everybody. That's it.
90 points is an overly expensive Guri. Sorry. I lived through Guri, Fen Guri as a viable meta archetype where Guri was like 120 something points. Like this
Shield
is a relatively
upgrade
lean Guri. Whew. I will say
exactly.
that I think that I like the idea of elusive pattern analyzer.
Yes.
Because you can do the red maneuver to reestablish your elusive, but before assigning the stress, still be able to take your action with pattern analyzer. And then you still have, I mean, Virago is basically a shield upgrade and afterburners crammed together into a single title, as well as having afterburners. So you've got a hyper maneuverable Guri. Dalen Oberos, for me, that's a slept on Star Viper. I remember when we were goofing around doing our construct the Death Star, and I would say that when John flew Dalen, and you see the power of not having to plan to bump, but plan to fly by your opponent, and then just rotate 90 degrees, so you've got a range one shot at the side of their ship. Also having prime thrusters is just, again, Star Vipers are so maneuverable as far as a ship goes with that bendy barrel roll. So anything you can add to make them more. And then Kanan's the only thing I worry about this, because Kanan is the one that's going to be using his force and passing things around and lowering dice. If you can drop that hawk quick enough, then it's just a matter of chasing down. And since neither of the Star Vipers have advanced sensors on them, you lose a lot of that pre-stress. You know what I mean? You lose a lot of that stress that you have trying to guess where they're going to go. But just me personally, again, Star Viper, my favorite ship in the game. I wish it had more representation. I wish we could get Thweek back from 1.0.
Yes.
Oh my God, he was so much fun. But anyway, I think this is a super strong list. I really do. I really like what they've done with Guri, but again, taking the sensor slot off of Guri was not something that was broken to begin with. So let me have it back.
All right, I agree with you on that, but not on the week.
Yeah. So the last list that we have here is for Chris Dunn. He's running a first order list here. He has 5 Sienna Jameis test pilots. I'm sorry, 4 Sienna Jamer test pilots in the TIE SE bomber, and then Grudge also in the bomber as well for the first order. All of them with skill bombardier and proximity mines. This is a pure bombing list that can really threaten with that system phase boost, and then just drop the bomb behind you to cause some damage. This is a list that has done well in the past. This has actually made quite a few cuts as a recent memory for GSP, and can do a lot of work. And because they have 6 hull or 6 health rather, 2 shields and 4 hull, they can absorb a lot of fire before you burn them down, and they can do some work. They, especially against like slower ships or ships that are not maneuverable. So this is something to definitely keep an eye out on for like a matchup. A matchup for me, like my particular list against this would not do very well, because Tavson does not want to get dropped all those bombs on top of him at the same time. Yeah, he can like coordinate once and reinforce, but that's about it. So
let me boost and dump a proxy at 2. No problem. Don't worry.
Yeah, exactly.
And I could boost in whatever direction I want.
Oh yeah, exactly. Yeah. And then just K turn if you need to, right? And just keep your arc on target, right? So so Charles, if you were looking to face off against one of these lists, which one would you think you want to do with your list?
I don't want Guri because she's gonna dance circles around my fire sprays. To be fair, I'd probably want that bomber list.
Yeah, I think you'd be pretty strong there. I think you'd be good against Guppy's list too, because you can easily outmaneuver the Belbalobs, which if they get stressed, they have no hearts or maneuvers, and your rear arc would just chew them apart. I think you're pretty good against that too.
Yep.
I
You're the
I
captain,
think,
man. I'm happy with whatever you're happy with.
yeah, for me, I think John's list is probably strongest against the FO bombers, and then for my list, I would actually probably take on the scum list with Guri and Dalen.
Sounds good,
Yeah.
Captain.
Well, hopefully you guys get them scheduled. I will inform the two of you, and you can let John know that unless COVID hits me, I am gone at a hockey tournament this weekend. So hopefully we can schedule the games before Friday so we can stream them all. And if not, make sure you post in Nabi's Discord to see if you can get the game stream, and we'll repost them on our channel. I would like to document this journey if we can, as much as we can. I know the last tournament we were in, we didn't get all the games, but
I'm okay with documenting it as long as we win. I don't want to look like a loser.
no, I think it's good.
It's like game tape.
It's a good entertainment value for everybody.
Of course it is. You're not playing in the tournament.
I would have. I was nice and let JJ play this time. So,
well, how magnanimous of you.
So, if it's me, I believe that John has to face the separatist list. Though, I honestly, I think if it's me being honest, I think the separatist list is the one that John needs to face because he'll have the best matchup. I don't think John will do good against those bombers though, because those bombers have pre-position moves. So all they have to do is get in close range and not be eliminated. And even those tri-fighters are not going to be that good at that. If he focuses all tri-fighters on one bomber, that's fine. But I don't know. To me, I think John in the separatist list has the best matchup. I think Charles actually has the best list for all of them. Charles could probably play literally every list and have at least 40% chance against every list. No questions asked.
You mean fire sprays are versatile? What?
Yeah, a little bit. Yep. And the fact that you're running the Boba Eamon and the Eamon has a bomb, so it can handle the higher ship counts or not, is fine. JJ, I don't know if you would be bad against that bomber list though, to some extent. I don't know, because I still think Tafson gets a couple of turns. It's only if Tafson gets caught with all those bombs, I guess, right? You know, if you get caught with 3 of them with proxies in one turn, you're dead.
So I do think that I would do well against the first order list too, mainly because Kylo can just turn his arc backwards and then just make sure that they're always behind him, and then the sensitive controls on Blackout makes him hard to pin down when it comes to those bombs. So I think that they innately have good options to avoid like getting hit by those bombs. Tabson, I would ideally like for him to like stay in the game a little bit, you know, but if he gets hit by like a good volley of those bombs, that could end up crippling him. So we'll see. I mean,
I think of it this way. I mean, if, at minimum, Tabson gets one turn where he sits and does nothing, right? You know, that it's so because you can do the hard stop and not worry about it. And that's the thing is they can't boost through Tabson very easily. I mean, they're going to have to be on those edges, whereas they can boost through other ships a little bit more easily, I think. So I think your worst matchup is the CIS matchup, personally. And I only say that because those Cisco and Aces can just get behind Tafson and have a nice time, and they're done. You know, even if you take Maul off the board, they're gonna be behind you, and you can't do anything about it. and you can jam as much as you want. It's still 3 red dice. So,
Yeah.
I don't
So,
know.
Nabi, to answer your question for predictions, I think that we'll win this 2-1 for this particular week here.
Woo! Here comes that smack talk.
And there'll be close games. I'm not gonna lie; these are gonna be close games because both sides have lists where if one thing, if something goes wrong, the list falls apart. So it just depends, right, on who can get the upper hand in those matches. For the other two teams, I think Filth Dunnutter has the advantage. I think they. I'll go for a bold prediction. I say that they do a clean sweep 3-0. I think they have strong lists and their players are really strong. I think they can sweep. So yeah.
So my prediction is that you guys will go 3-0 in this one. And I say that with the caveat that the bomber list would be really the only list that you would have to worry about. I don't think
Nice.
that Guri list is anything. I like the mall list, don't get me wrong, but it's unless that mall list gets paired against you, that mall list doesn't really have much chance.
I
And
don't think you're giving Guri enough credit, my friend.
that's fine. And maybe it's only because I've only played him against you and you've never won with him against me, but
I
Where's
respect
the
the power of
react for
Guri.
that?
Yeah.
Nope, I'm not gonna bite your bait, man.
No, I don't see that. I don't see Guri as the I agree with you. I think Kanan is a weak link, personally. I do. I don't think
I'll take this conversation the same route that I've taken every conversation that you and I have had about Torkel Bucks. And I know that you hate Torkel Bucks, and that's fine. This is not trying to stoke that fire. But no matter how good the pilot is, it's still a friggin' hawk.
No, you're right. Absolutely.
2 good swats and it's gone. If you can catch that in 2 decent fire arcs and you get a good enough shot on it, it's only 2 evade dice. You're gonna swat it out of the sky quick if you could nail that.
Yeah, that's why I'm more concerned by that scum list, though. I don't think Guri is a good enough ace. I think Dalen's the powerhouse in that list, personally. I think Guri is okay because it's a surprise. But if you know how Guri moves, okay, look, I know how to Guri moves because Charles loves Guri and plays. I played him
Guri
way more than I played anybody else, or I guess, sorry. But I don't know. Like, yeah, I agree with you. I don't like Torkel Mux not because I think he's powerful. He just angers me. I see him as a negative play experience. But that's just my opinion.
Yeah,
I don't know.
So I mean, you're right. For the Hawk, I think it is the weakest piece in that list because Kanan's ability only works with the turret arc, right? And typically, the way you want to run Kanan is at least the arc on the side, and then of course you have Moldy Crow that gives you that front arc. So you're either going to turn your arc to move it forward, and now the rest of your ship has no arc, no angle on any of the other ships that are coming around you, and the majority of our ships are very maneuverable to get around it. Or you play the support piece and just hope that your other ships try to take the brunt of it, which you're not going to want to do because you want to make sure that you can take out Guri or Dalen, who have 3 agility, and if you're getting your dice reduced by 1 by Kanan, you have less of a chance to push damage on those more maneuverable ships. So Kanan is easily the easiest part to take out, probably by the second engagement, and then you just work on the rest of the list, and that's it.
Yeah. That's no offense. I know you like Guri and I know you like Star Vipers. And to be honest with you, I wish they would retool them a little bit. Because I think they would be a lot more fun in the game. And
I will just say this: the last, not the most recent, obviously, because Ollie won that with Imperial Aces, but the year prior to that, 4 generic Star Vipers won Worlds.
Yeah.
I think it was 4 generic Star Vipers, and they each had Juke, I want to say, or Snapshot, or not Snapshot, Crackshot. 4 generics with Crackshot. Now, granted, they were flown by a very amazing player from Germany, but 4 generic Star Vipers won the world championship. They're amazing. They're such an amazing ship, but they require discipline. You can't just screw around with them like you can with other ships.
All right. So let's
exactly.
move on to the last segment that I wanted to do. And what I wanted to do is talk about perks of each faction, right? And if you're a veteran or you're somebody that's listened to the show for a long time and been playing X-Wing for a couple of years, this segment is probably not as awesome as you might think. I hope you find enjoyment out of it, but essentially what I wanted to do is I wanted to look at if you were a newer player or somebody getting into X-Wing, for example, that only flew one faction. So even if you've flown, let's say, for 6 years, but you've only ever flown Scum, what faction should you get into next if you wanted to pick a second faction? And I'm not saying everybody should fly multiple factions. I have a lot of people I know that only fly 1 or 2 factions. I know that. I'm the weird oddball person that overly collects things and has spent way too much money on X-Wing in 2 years that to be considered healthy. Honestly, like I can pretty much run most lists in person. There's a few lists I can't. The Curix fighters, I can't because they're rare. I can't run the Star Alpha Starfighters, right? But I can run a lot of other lists in person. I own like 7 M3As, and I've never ran more than 1 M3A in my life. Just saying, I'm not a Scum player. Anyway, so what I wanted to do is talk about getting into each of the factions, and I don't really want to talk about the negative side of it, right? Because I think every faction has a negative downside, right? I really do. And I think the difference is we could talk the negatives all day long, but given the fact that we know some of the new rules that are coming up, not that we know all of them, but we know some of them, and we know some of these other things, I think going into what factions are decent for people to get into and what are the advantages of them would be beneficial, personally. So,
real quick, because Nabi did have a question in reference to the Trilogy Tournament. And JJ, feel free to jump in on this one if you'd like. I didn't think that it was bad, Nabi. The diverse archetype requirement, I didn't think it was bad, but I think that's just because as a group for us, I can't speak for any other team, but as a group for us, we're kind of diverse in our style anyway. I tend to be pretty solid on the chunky lists. I like 2-ship lists. I like medium, large base ship lists because I'm a Scum player. That's our strength. John likes the AC lists, the swarmy lists where he can have 5 or 6 ships. And JJ, I'll talk smack about my captain. He's an all-around great player. Like, I don't think there's a list that I've seen him fly that he doesn't do well with. So it was just a matter of having good communication and determining what you were leaning towards, so that we could each build a list together that worked together. So for me, I liked it. I like when you change things about a tournament. I like the list building requirements and stuff like that. At the beginning of COVID, I played at a generic tournament where there were no named pilots and you could only have 1 ship of each chassis. That was a pain because trying to build a list around generic pilots and only having 1 of each ship was hard. This was just a matter of having good communication between the team. And we've all been playing X-Wing together for a while, so it was relatively easy to have that communication.
Yeah, I agree. I think that the list requirements here were just enough where you got just the right amount of diversity across all 3 lists. You had plenty of options that you can choose from without having too much overlap. I mean, the only thing you have to really worry about is maybe like some particular crews that appear in different factions, or like Lone Wolf, for instance, being an option that could appear in multiple lists. But honestly, we in all of our list building between the 3 of us, we didn't have a single overlap after we were done, which was fantastic. And that just shows how easy it was to still come up with good lists that were solid and should not have any overlap for any unique pilots or upgrades like that. And it was easy, honestly, for us. So, yeah.
Hey, I have a question. So
Nope.
you can't run to the same upgrade. So you can't run the same bombs.
No,
in 2
unique
lists?
upgrades.
Oh,
Unique
okay,
upgrades. So
okay,
anything
okay.
that's
Unique.
like a pip. Yeah.
Okay, well, okay. Never mind that.
All right. So going to back to the perks of each faction here. So I'll start us off with the Rebel faction here. So the Rebels here, if I were to give it a perk, is that it's a really, really balanced faction in terms of it's even across the board for everything. It has a good amount of offense, has a good amount of support, and has a good amount of like defensive ships that can like really tank and stay in the fight for a long time. You have a good selection of different chassis that can build out any type of archetypes. If you like swarms, you can run A wings. If you like more tankier ships that are like 4-off ships, you have the X wings, you have the B wings that fit really well in the list. If you want support ships, you have that in a lot of different chassis between the HWK, between the X wing, the A wings that have all pilots that give you that those different types of abilities to act as good support pieces for your list. You have that. If you want ace lists, you have ships that can that are high initiative that have the ability to be self-sustaining, great action economy, like the Millennium Falcon, for instance, with like Lando or Han Solo that has that passive reroll in it, or you have really good powerhouse chassis or pilots, I should say, that are really good at pushing through damage, like Wedge Antilles, for instance. So they're good all arounds. On top of that, they have probably the highest ratio of shield and hull across the board, across all the factions. You take a look at like the B Wing, for instance, 4 hull, 4 shields. That's probably like the best ratio between all the different small base ships across the board for all the factions. Same thing with X-Wings, 4 hull, 2 shields, really cheap chassis, and you can fit 5 of them for generics in a single list, makes them really effective. And on top of that, it's an easy buy-in too. If you're a new player going into a new faction, right off the bat with the core set, you start off with an X-Wing, which has a lot of different choices there for pilots, and then and it's just easy to build from that point there.
I think another benefit they have, and I had mentioned this off air, JJ, is the recognizability. Right?
Oh
like
yeah,
no
iconic.
matter what ship is being flown, it's something that has seen screen time in a movie. So for a new player that wants that, if they're looking for
Except
that
for
nostalgia
Dash.
feel, no, that's not true.
He was in 3 seconds. 3
I'm sorry.
seconds.
Did it display in a movie theater? Then it's scene time in a movie. Just saying.
Also, Book of Boba Fett. No, never mind. Sorry, spoiler. No, I'm playing.
Oh, whatever. Get out of here.
I'm playing.
Nonsense.
Oh, by the way, we're having hopefully a spoiler cast after this. So yeah.
So that being said, though, the Rebels, I agree. I think they're a solid faction. And they're consistent. They're consistent no matter what kind of list you put together. They generally tend to be really consistent. So
yeah.
I was gonna say this for me. The Rebels is synergy and the ability to pass tokens. That's it. Like their gimmick is I'm going to allow multiple mods to be handed around, and we're just going to call it Christmas. To me, it's the Christmas faction. That's what it is.
Is that your favorite holiday, Chris?
No, I don't like any
Christmas?
holidays, actually. So
Because it's got your name in it.
I don't like Christ, and Christ has got my name in it too. So there you go.
Fair enough. I guess I can go next with Scum.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right. For me, I think one of the deterrents from Scum is there's really only one iconic ship, and that's the Fire Spray. The other ships you don't really see a lot in a lot of the major motion pictures. If you get into the cartoons, maybe you catch a couple ships here and there. If you were really into the legacy stories, the legends stories, then yeah, you see some there. But for me, I am one of those. So seeing Star Vipers, seeing a lot of the pilot ships that you've always wondered what they look like was a draw for me. I think for me, one of the major playabilities for Scum is cost-wise. It's very efficient to get into. Most of the ships, with the exception of like the Kiraz fighter, most of the small base ships have been re-released black box in one way or another. So you've been able to get the Z95s, you're able to get the M3As, you're able to get the Mining Guild ties, a lot of the smaller ships, not Star Vipers yet, hopefully soon. Cough cough, AMG, cough cough. But that being said, I'd say if you like weird interactions, things that make you stop and think, things that make you look at the game from a different vantage point, most people would say broken mechanics, things that plan to work one way, but when you pair them together, work a different way. Scum is probably for you. Scum is one of the few factions that can actually use the illicit upgrades. So they give you kind of that smugglery, like we're making stuff work because we got to make stuff work feel. And I like that about Scum. It's a bunch of hodgepodge that shouldn't work well together, but they do because they're flying for the highest bidder rather than for an ideal. So realistically, I have been primarily a Scum player since the release of the Scum Wave in 1.0. They are my faction of choice. I'm sure you can see all the Mando stuff all around me. I don't know. Scum has just always been near and dear to my heart because it's, I don't know. This is going to sound really, really bad, but there's no better way to word it. I agree with the philosophy of working for who's paying the most. Because that's kind of how we all
do.
Exactly. No one wants to admit it, but like more money is better. So I really like Scum. Fang fighters are amazing.
Yeah. See, I would say if we lived in a socialist society, I wouldn't have that same mentality, but we don't. We live in a capitalist society, so I'm in the same boat. If you want to pay me more money, I'll tell you what. My buddy says the same thing. I would shovel shit if you tripled my salary right now. I shovel shit every day, 8 hours a day. No questions asked. I wouldn't work overtime, but I'd do that. Whatever. 40 hours a week, triple my salary right now, I'll shovel shit.
Yeah, I think that for the Scum, just going like to the ships itself, I think that they have some of the best large space ships in the game. That definitely have a lot of abilities there that can really punish the other opponents. You take a look at Dengar with its ability to double tap, and then on top of that, it's an asymmetric dial as well that can give you the one up if you can really fly it really well. Take a look at Bosk. Bosk is seeing a lot of popularity because of his ability to change crits into 2 hits and pushing in extra damage there, and it can really survive as well with his action economy. And on top of that, now it's getting the Gauntlet Fighter on top of that, and then the Mando, the Razor Crest coming into it as well, which is another iconic ship that people are just going to be drawn to that particular faction for. I think that Scum definitely has a lot of great tools to make it a really solid faction if you're deciding to make it as your second faction in the game.
Yeah, see, and
or even your first.
I kind of agree with Charles, and it's one of the harder factions to get into. But I think the Gauntlet Fighter and the Razor Crest are going to fix some of that to some extent. I don't like saying that because I think for me the gimmick with Scum is weird interactions, which honestly made Scum the faction I chose to stay away from when I first started. And it's just because I didn't want to remember all the damn triggers. Seriously.
For me, it was just money. But yeah.
Well, that too. Okay, that too.
See,
but I mean,
nostalgia story, real quick tangent. But I remember walking into Out of the Box in Grand Rapids, and walking past and seeing the Star Viper ship. And that day, I bought 2 Z95s, an M3A, 2 Kiraz fighters, and 2 Star Vipers. I bought out everything that had the Scum logo on it that wasn't the Slave One. And that's how I got into X-Wing, because I saw a Star Viper and was like, oh, gotta have that one.
Yeah.
And 8 years later, here I am on a podcast talking about a game full of little plastic ships.
Yeah. And the first scum ship list I ever ran, ironically enough, Charles, had Cad Bane, Eamon, and Boba Fett in it. Just so you know, at a time, like literally, when I was learning how to play X-Wing, because Matt had Scum, Matt and I both had Empire, Matt had Scum, and then I started to get into Separatist, and that was kind of how we started. And I wanted to play, Scum a little bit, and that was literally the first list I ran was Boba Eamon, and we ran it with Cad Bane all the time. Like seriously, all the time on Eamon all the time. So anyway, so I find Scum a harder faction for new players to get into, but I think some of that's getting fixed with the new ships coming out. So
I remember 1.0 looking at the fire spray and going, "Oh, this is great," and then going, "Oh, wait, it's an Empire ship." Never mind, because pre the Star Viper wave, the only way you could fly Boba Fett was through Empire. It was terrible.
Yeah,
fire spray was horrible.
Exactly. Yep.
All right, so now the faction that I want to go through next is Resistance, and I think for me, so I'm a CIS player, but that's by choice, a little bit more than other reasons. So I feel Resistance is probably one of the best factions to get into. It's not as I don't want to say scummy as Rebels with the token sharing because it's not, but I think for ease of flying, the Resistance has X-Wings, they have A-Wings, which, especially in Resistance, A-Wings are really, really good. Like, if you're going to buy, and this is not a Nabi,
he's already on your hype train, bro.
All right, well, this is not meant for Nabi. I actually agree with this. The reason I had issues with Resistance in tournaments is because it was hard to get them to win against some of the crazy lower pointed, shiplets. But now that the points have been adjusted again, Resistance really is one of the best factions to get into, either as your first or second one. And it's for I have like a few reasons, right? One, you get a variety of ships with a variety of maneuvers, right? So you get the ability to either spam if you want, or take a bunch of different ship types that you want. They have the iconic ships. I think that's kind of the idea of this game, though. So, like, really, this game would suck if they didn't have the iconic ships.
Yeah,
period. Right. But the other thing is they also have 2 starter packs, right? Now they have 2 starter packs. You can buy each starter pack and have 2 squads. Like, you can have 2 different style squads. They have
the
Y-Wings. Yep, Y-Wings.
So they got 3 then, because you can actually go back and find them relatively cheap. But you have the Heroes of the Resistance pack, which came with the Falcon as well as Black One, the T-70 X-Wing from 1.0. You can still find them secondarily reasonably cheap.
Okay. Yeah, I guess I never thought about that. Yep. So yes, so there's 3 starter packs that you can get, and all of those starter packs are really awesome, right? No matter which one you get. I think the other thing is, right, is you can buy just X-Wings and A-Wings and have lists, right? The versatility of just having just those 2 specific ships and buying multiples of them is like off the charts. I can run, like, if I had 3 T-70s and 3 A-Wings, I have 3 different list archetypes that I can run. And they're the best part about all this is they are somewhat, for the most part, they are that middle tier, immediately middle tier viable for tournaments, right? Just those type things. And that's the best part about this, is that you can play competitively if you want and still not do well if you don't have the practice, right? But you can still play competitively with these, and it's not like you're running an aces list. It's not like you're running the Republic list where you have 3 health ships, you know, where the boom, oh, they're gone. Boom, oh, they're gone. And then it becomes a negative play experience if you run the wrong archetype or the wrong ship types. And so, like, for me, Resistance was the third faction I got into purely because of the fact that the ease of being able to fly those ships was just there. I could be a bad player and still win 50% of the time. So there you go. I'm not that good of a player now anyway, but all right. Anybody else have Resistance, or you want to move on to the next faction?
Yeah, let's go into to the Empire here. So the Empire is, I think, overall has a higher skill ceiling, but also has a higher payoff, right? Because you have a lot more of those AC type ships or chassis, I should say, that allow you to reposition to try to get a positional advantage onto your opponents, namely like the Interceptor that has the ability to boost and barrel roll, or like the TIE Whisper that allows you to decloak to then come in at a different angle unexpectedly. They do require a little bit more advanced planning for maneuvers to help you get that advantage over it, and they trade that maneuverability for less health overall. So if you're able to, I think that if you're a little bit more of an advanced player, Empire is definitely really good. That being said, they also do have platforms on the Empire that is very beginner friendly. Looking at the TIE Defender, for instance, that is definitely really easy to just move around the board with minimal consequences in terms of like getting stress and still getting mods. Or you could take a look at the TIE Striker, which allows you to continuously boost and move into positions to get into a better shot with your strikers, or even the standard TIE Fighter. Running it as a swarm, it is a very iconic ship across the board. Everybody recognizes the TIE Fighter, and when run in a swarm, it can be still very, very effective, especially with like the Inferno Squad pilots that come in the core set. It's very easy to buy into. You start off with 2 fighters right off the bat in the core set, and you also get those Inferno Squadron pilots there that are really, really good. And
you have the Defender pack as well.
Yep, exactly. The fighter packs that come out that came out for the Empire as well give you the 2 TIE Interceptors and the TIE Defender. So
don't waste your money on that though. The Defender is a terrible ship. I don't think anybody should buy it or fly it. It's just it's horrible.
I highly disagree. Highly disagree. I'm sorry. Nope.
I'll jump in next then after Empire, and I'll take the what ended up being my secondary faction.
All right, before we do that, I just got to go back to the Empire. I'm going to say I don't agree with you that it's a higher skill ceiling. Though.
I would have to agree with JJ 100%.
I don't. I don't think that. I think maybe with some of the ships, sure, but not with a lot of them. Your Phantom is not a high skill ship. Your Defender is definitely not a high skill ship.
I would. The Defender, I would not agree with you. The Phantom, though, I definitely, in order for you to be effective with the Phantom, you do have to plan those decloaks good, right? Because you want to try to outposition or outmaneuver your opponent as much as you can to get behind them. Because you never want to be stressed, right? Because you never want to lose the ability to decloak and get an evade with the Phantom. And on top of that, you always want to have that evade token whenever you can, which means that you have to try to take less shots as possible. It only has 5 health total between the 2 shields and 3 hull. Which is basically like a HWK. It can pop really easily if it's engaged or takes too many shots in. So in exchange for that maneuverability, you want to make sure that you don't just try to joust an entire list with your Phantom and hope that your dice are going to bail you out. Now, what I mean by why it requires a higher skill, a ceiling for it, is because you do have to be able to mentally, especially if you're playing like face to face on a table, and TTS is a little bit easier, but on a table you have to be able to mentally visualize how far your maneuver is going to go. Are you going to be able to get around the rock if you do like a pre-move decloak with like a Phantom, or with the TIE Interceptor, the boost barrel roll? Is the boost barrel roll going to get me out of arc and still get me a shot at range 1, preferably against the enemy that you're trying to get to? A lot of other factions don't have chassis that have access to a double reposition. The the Republic is probably one of the other ones that does have a lot of those ships that can do that. But for like the Empire, if you look at the Rebellion, the A-Wings are the only other ones that have like a double reposition potential, and they have to specifically do a barrel into a boost, whereas the TIE Interceptor doesn't have that limitation. And it's there's a lot less ships available that have that type of double reposition ability that the Empire has on their faction. So yeah.
No, I will say as well that the Empire does have its fair share of ships that don't have that high ceiling. Like when you look at the X1, I can't say anything about the V ones because I fly them terribly and they explode like nothing when I fly them. But that being said, I mean, I would agree that I believe the Empire, just because the people that play Empire regularly are extremely good at playing Empire. One of them being John. If you ever fly John against an interceptor list or a striker list for that matter, the level of meta thinking that's required to know where your ship is going to be after your aileron maneuver, to be able to plan what maneuver you're going to do after that, if you're going to bump on purpose, it's just a different level of thinking and pre-planning that you don't have to have in a lot of the other factions. So that's just my 2 cents. My secondary faction, the faction that drew me next, you kind of mentioned it already, JJ, is the Republic. For those of you who are wondering, the gimmick for the Republic is 2 words: force points. That is the Republic's gimmick. Everything's got some sort of way to get force points on it. They do not, and then I'll say this, and I'll probably get shot down for this. They don't have the depth of ship selection that some other factions do. I mean, you have the Adas, but they haven't really seen their renaissance, if you will, with the Adas. We saw a little bit of it happen with Auto Blasters, and then that was taken away from us. We've always had the Deltas. Delta 7s are iconic as they get, the Jedi ship. You've got the LAT and you've got the ARC. And just recently, we got the V-Wing. And the only thing that I wish they didn't do, and I'll die on this hill, I'm fine with it, release the torrent in its individual pack. Stop making me buy Delta 7s to get torrents. Please give me a torrent in its individual. I will spend $15 a ship. I don't care. Release it individually, for the love of Christ.
Yeah, that alone has stopped me from actually getting another torrent. I only have 2 of them because I refuse to buy an entire pack just to get 2 torrents.
I have 7 Deltas. I don't need any more. I'd kill for a torrent.
Look, if there's anybody in the chat right now that's got extra torrent fighters that they want to get rid of, let me know.
And I agree 100%, Nobby. The
Belbalubs.
The Belbalubs, release them in an individual pack. I get why you released it in the group pack, but it's done. It's over. Unless you're going to mass produce them and lower the cost on them now as a secondary, release them individually. Please let us have the ships that we want to fly. But for me, I enjoy the Republic. It, much like the Empire, requires a different level of play style. It requires you to be able to think ahead, plan when you want to use the Delta 7's reposition capabilities, and a lot of arc dodging. They have a lot of fragile ships that like to get you feeling comfortable behind those green dice, and then all of a sudden smack those green dice out of your hand as you remove them from the board.
Yeah.
All right. So the obvious choice for me is CIS. I would actually say if you are looking for a faction and you're just getting into the game and you don't care about flying iconic ship characters, CIS is the best faction to get into.
You're not wrong, because no one knows their names.
Oh, you know who Darth Maul is, and you know who General Grievous is, and you know who Dooku is, but other than that, you don't really know.
Other than that, give me another one.
Yeah, they're all droids. Yeah, no.
Or bugs.
Wat. There you go. Wat Tambor. There's another one. I mean, but I would say in terms of being able to play multiple play styles, being able to have ships that have similar movement types, being able to have ships that are lower initiative, allowing you to go first, no matter what road says. Having ships that have multiple ship styles of play. CIS really is one of the easier factions to get into. Now,
does CIS have a big medium base other than the fire spray?
No.
no, not yet.
So they have one large, one medium, and then everything else is small base, right?
Yes.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yep. And there you go. If we have to talk about downfalls, that's one of the downfalls is you're playing all small base ships for the most part. So
But it fits thematically. If you look at every fight that the CIS had, they love that swarm.
yes. I will say, because of the fact that you have the ability to have multiple styles of play, the Tri-Fighter introduced a new style to CIS where you can have semi-AC ships. You can have something that's got more agility to it that doesn't just go pop at any initiative. So there's that. But on the opposite side, the reason I could recommend CIS is because of the fact that, yes, if you do run 8 ships, you lose one, you don't care. If you lose 2 in a churn, you care a little bit, but really until you hit that 3rd or 4th one, you don't care. So, the idea behind you as a starting player not having a negative play experience because somebody erased your Guri in 2 rounds is high. Even Grievous lives longer than he should. Let's just be honest.
You're not
Grievous
wrong.
lives way too long, especially if you read any of the books and if you do any of these other, like, Grievous is not as good as he is in X-Wing. Like seriously, he's just, especially once you start adding some upgrades to him. So for me, CIS is, and again, I chose CIS because I wanted to learn how to fly against the swarm, and I wanted to learn what happens when people bump versus when you don't bump. Now, I will say in the new meta that we may be experiencing, CIS may not be the best faction to fly, because if we do have self bumps doing damage, you will lose droids rather quickly. Just throwing it out there. But it's just going to it'll open a different play style up, and it'll allow for independent calculates at 0 cost to be king of everything. Just everything. But even the fact that I can fly Grievous almost like a droid really is like a testament to how they fly. And it's funny, and I shouldn't say this because anybody watching this who's going to LVO will know what maneuvers my stupid fire sprays will do if I run that list. But I tend to run ships like droids a lot. Like, even in other factions, I run hard maneuvers a lot more than I run the softer maneuver. And that's because I spent, and you can ask Matt, but I spent a lot of time running droids against them. So
we'll just edit that out in post. Don't worry about it.
Right.
I think the last faction on our list, and I think all 3 of us can agree that it's just not even worth your time. So don't buy any of them.
No, I highly disagree on that. Heck no.
No. So this was the first faction that my son showed interest in, mainly because of Kylo Ren. And that's First Order. I think that First Order suffers from the same thing that the Empire suffers from, and that is a lot of high agility ships with low life totals, with the exception of like Whisper Kylo, because he's just a pain in the everything. But you have a lot of ships that flip a coin, right? They either live way longer than they should, or they don't live nearly long enough. They either die in the aggregate. It's like a Fang. They are almost an entire faction of Fang fighters. They either live long enough for you to hate them, or you just swat them out of the sky like they're not even there. With the exception of the Whisper and the new one. The new Kylo? The new Kylo. We got the TIE Whisper, and then
the
one that gets
you
the
talk-
jamming suite.
Yeah, the TIE Whisper is the one that you're talking
So what's
about.
the first one that Kylo had?
The TIE Silencer.
There you go. Thank you. Sorry. So,
Yeah,
yeah, I
Silencer.
meant Silencer but Silencer and Whisper, they share very similar qualities. But again, if you look at FO as an overall faction, you're going to find very, very, just like you do with Resistance and Rebel, right? There are some very clearly drawn similarities between FO and Empire in the high agility, high number of agility ships. Unless you want Kylo or you want Vader or you want like one of those named pilots that just flies circles around everybody, they are expensive. But you can TIE swarm in either one fairly comfortably, and just like Chris said, you have the benefit of if you lose a ship, you don't really care until you hit that third or fourth ship, and then you start to panic a little bit.
Yeah, definitely. FO is definitely a very, very aggressive faction because a lot of their abilities are based on you being hyper aggressive with your ships for negative effects, just so you have the chance to push in more damage. So it is definitely a very, very in your face type of faction where it just wants to just start shooting as much as it can at the expense of its own health or maneuverability for future turns. So on top of that, one of the perks of it is that because it is the smallest faction with the amount of different ships, it is easy to catch up into the faction and get as many ships as possible. Out of all the different factions. That being said, it does have a very good diversity in terms of different pilots that you can put across the different chassis for it, and it's a fairly easy faction to get into.
And I think all of their ships are available. You don't have to buy a pack to get a specific ship.
The Upsilon is the only one. Yeah, the Upsilon is the only one that hasn't converted from to 2.0 as of yet. But yeah.
But I mean, as far as like, there's not a triple ship pack or a double ship pack that you have to buy to get a ship. I believe they are all individually available, like you said, with the exception of the Epsilon. But even then, you can buy the 1.0 version. They're fairly plentiful on the secondary. They're not like an alpha class gun where they're
exactly where you have to pay like $70 for it. Yeah, exactly.
No, you just pay $70 because that's the ticket price.
Yeah.
So
yeah. For me, the same thing too. Like FO is Kylo. So Kylo, 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 Kylo.
Hollow and Von Reg.
No. It's just Kylo. Those other two don't matter. Anyway. So there you go. That's kind of the buy-in faction that we talked about. I will tell you, I'm not against buying into FO. Personally, especially if you do want to spend limited money, but you are going to run
the most cost-effective faction as well, just because everything's a small base ship, with the exception of the Epsilon. Do they have? Oh, the new bomber is the new bomber's a medium, right?
No. The only medium is the shuttle, the She class shuttle. That's it.
Yeah. Oh yeah, okay, the She shuttle. Yep.
The she shells by the seashore shuttle.
Well done, man. I'm proud of you.
Yeah, I must not be drunk tonight.
So we do the typical disclaimer here?
Yeah, so what we're gonna do is we're gonna end the show. I'm gonna play the outro, and then if you would like to stick around, it is gonna take me about 2 minutes, and then we're gonna come right back and gonna talk Book of Boba Fett. So
if you have not watched episode 1 or episode 2, I cannot promise that we will be spoiler free.
We are 100% going to be spoiler.
Yeah,
it's not even a question.
So don't stick. So don't. As much as we would love to have you stick around and talk with us, do not stick around if you do not want to be spoiled on episode 1 or episode 2 of the Book of Boba Fett.
Yep. Because I have some strong opinions. Because I have recently gone back and rewatched The Mandalorian. So, and then I listened to D and Ryan's After Dark, and yeah, I got some opinions on that. So anyway, thank you all for joining us. We will be live this week. We do typically do our Wednesday nights. If you are playing in Jane Tank and want your game streamed on Wednesday night, let us know. We'll give you a priority slot over our community service games. Otherwise, you can sign up in the chat. You can sign up in the chat, not in the chat. Damn it. You can sign up in
the Discord.
the Discord or the Google Sheet to say, hey, I want to play Saturday or on Wednesday, yada yada yada, and we will make sure you get a spot. But if you have Jang Tank, we will 100% stream your game. So Nabi, if you want your game stream, let us know, man. I'll stream your game on Wednesday. So with that being said, hopefully we'll have our Trilogy Tournament game scheduled before I go out to the east side of the state this week. So I would like to stream all of our games if we can. With that being said, we'll see you Wednesday. If not, we will definitely see you next Sunday, 9 p.m. Eastern. Have a good night, everyone. We'll be right back.